Welcome to the Power to the Data Report, a podcast with news and analysis on big data, data science, machine learning, AI, and deep learning. I'm your host, Daniel Gutierrez. I'm editor-in-chief and resident data scientist for Inside Big Data. And today my guest is Ashwin Rajeeva. He is CTO of Acceldata. Ashwin, welcome to the show today.
Hey, Daniel, thanks for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Great. So, Ashwin, we've been big fans of Acceldata for a long while now. Can you give us a quick overview about what's new at Acceldata?
Yeah, thanks for following us through our journey. What's new at Acceldata, right? I think most recently we closed our financing round of Series C of $50 million. We announced it about a couple of weeks back. And we are focusing on, as a company, kind of serving our existing customers better and also looking at a lot more enterprises who are getting interested in this field, in data observability. And over the last year, we have seen, tremendous interest from, our target segment, which is large enterprises. And quite surprisingly, a lot of our newer requirements and solutions are coming in from, customers, enterprise customers who are now looking to migrate their data platforms on the cloud. And with our cloud platform, which we released last year, we've seen a lot of customers actually, adopt it. And we have been onboarding customers on our platform over the last year, making sure that we can, they can operate their data products in the most efficient way possible on the cloud, on-prem, hybrid, or whatever the landscape is. So that's what we've been up to.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, data observability is huge space right now. Well, Ashwin, your slides are up, and I will hand it off to you, and we'll do a short Q&A at the end.
All right, great. Yeah, so I just wanted to start off with some background about our company and what's our journey been. We started out in the mid of 2018. We are based here in the Bay Area in Campbell, and we have offices in Bangalore, Singapore, and we have around 150 plus people right now. Right, like I just mentioned, we most recently raised a 50 million C round. Overall, we have raised close to 95 million over the last 4 years. And most of it, if you look at our investors, most of them are from the enterprise space. And so what do we do? As a company, we build a data observability platform, right? And quite simply, this means that if you're a large enterprise, which if you look at our key customers, a lot of them are, the profile is of a large enterprise, whether you take Dun & Bradstreet, Blue Cross Blue Shield, PubMatic, PhonePe, which probably is the largest payment providers in India, Oracle, Verisk, T-Mobile, AT&T, the list goes on and on. What we help them do is to make sure that they can operate their data platforms and data product at scale. And we do this by making sure that the data delivery pipeline end to end, or what we call at Acceldata the supply chain of data, is working reliably, and making sure that the data team can work on business problems and delivering value rather than keep debugging a lot of these issues which come in. And I think as a company, we are best placed to solve this sort of a problem because most of our leadership team comes with a very strong data background. I personally was an architect at Hortonworks before this. So was our CEO. Running large portions of the hybrid cloud initiative. Most of our leadership comes from a data background, whether it's coming in from Data Robot, Sumo Logic, Hortonworks, Hitachi Vantara, and Cloudera. So we have seen some of these problems firsthand, and we have seen them at scale, right? And that was the reason why we also started the company, because for a long time we were involved in making sure that the customers, can operate the data platforms, and we realized that there are not too many solutions in the market which allow the data engineer to optimize on the metrics that they are interested in, right? And we kind of thought of the term data observability somewhere in 2019 early, and in those days, data observability was very new. There was not many people covering it. And 4 years down, we see a lot of interest, not just from customers, also from the investment community, and we have a lot of competitors in different segments of the market. Something on the lines which I mentioned earlier, right? What's the challenge in today? I would there are many, but I would categorize them in three buckets, right? One is what I call data sprawl. Everybody knows about it, right? That every enterprise customer, small and big, is now collecting more data than ever, right? You have data in your data center, you have data backed up on your tapes, you have data on the cloud, you have data in files, and you have more and more data coming in every day. And over the last decade, we have also seen the emergence of newer, business critical workflows. For example, whether it's business analytics, which feeds directly into the bottom line of a company, or there are newer use cases such as ML, AI, and looking into the future. I think data is going to be the key force driving revenue in a lot of enterprise companies. And tech sprawl, I have been around in this field long enough to remember that around in 2005, 2006, you had two ETL companies and you had two business reporting companies, maybe three, right? You had something like Informatica, Power Center, which used to, push data into something like a DB2, from where you could probably draw a report in Cognos. Fast forward to 2022, and you see an explosion in the kind of tech that you can use, right? You have a choice of databases, all optimized for different outcomes. You have a choice of visualization tools, a huge range of ETL, ELT tools, different way of doing things, open source, closed source, hybrid, cloud, data center, streaming, non-streaming. So you name it, and there's probably tech for it. And what people don't realize is that the nature of business is that that a lot of projects, which are data projects especially, which are built in the modern day, is kind of put together with a bunch of different technologies, right? More often than not, it is very rare to see an end-to-end data platform kind of delivered on a single platform. And you can kind of intersect with the trend we are seeing in the industry, where a lot of these, whether it's Snowflake or Databricks, they want to be a single platform, right? So what ends up happening in real life is there's usually more tech and more platforms than anything else. And the third one is, of course, talent shortage. This has been the bane of data engineering forever. There's always been a talent shortage. Data engineering is still the number one, I think, job listing for which there are not enough candidates that people can fill. And this is going to continue. And I think, leading into that, that's where we come in. So to understand this a little better, this is a little bit of a tense slide. I think what you need to look at is, what I would call as classic application or API observability, right? So over the years, developers of mobile apps and backend APIs and web apps have kind of consolidated or centered in one way of working, and that essentially is develop your application in using microservices, use one of Angular, React, or Vue.js to do the front end. There's probably a Postgres database at the back end, and there's some data movement between them. And if you take something like Datadog, most of the features which are provided by an APM or an observability provider such as Datadog or New Relic is kind of geared towards providing visibility into different parts of that stack, right? So you can do database monitoring, you can do API monitoring, you can look at latencies, you can look at page load times, you can look at application security, you can probably look at also cloud cost. Now, what this slide shows you to some extent is the architecture of a typical data pipeline, right? So you have a bunch of data sources. There's some data, which are then moved through a data pipeline to different applications, data applications, dashboards, ML, and AI. And we believe that there is very little intersection between what is important for a data engineer. In this case, you probably are worried about schema drifts, you're probably worried about throughput latency, you're worried about the data quality, you're worried about data reconciliation, you're worried about root cause analysis, spend, drift, health of the pipeline, SLAs, parameters changing, and you can extend this into, for example, if you're writing ML applications, then maybe monitoring the accuracy of models. So what this talks about is that the concerns of the data engineer are not exactly the same concerns that maybe an application engineer shares. And therefore, I think data observability brings in a new way of thinking about concerns which are important for data engineers and cannot possibly be met by something which is not meant to fit into data pipelines. And so whether it's Prometheus and Grafana, or it's Datadog, New Relic, or any of the existing APM providers, it gets very difficult to fit that solution into what is interesting for a data engineer. And that's where I think we come in. So for us, we look at, if you think of classic observability, people talk about pillars, and those would be application, metrics, events, logs, and traces, right? That's what most of the observability providers kind of focus on. When it comes to data observability for the enterprise, I think the concerns which we have identified, and a lot of industry analysts kind of agree with us, is the fact that you need to look at four key parts of the data pipeline. And so if you start from the bottom left, you have compute, which talks about, are you using your compute capacity or the platform in the right way? And do you have the right price for performance ratio, which is being delivered? On-prem, there's a different ratio. I think on cloud, there's a different ratio. And as data engineers or data platform providers, you need to understand what those are. On the bottom right, we have another key concept called reliability, because data moves through the pipeline, and as it moves through the pipeline, you need to make sure that your expected data quality, your expected structures are maintained through this process to make sure that the delivery of data actually makes an impact. And that's the part about reliability. We also look at data pipelines, which is the mechanism of through which the data moves, whether this is done custom, or you have an existing ETL provider. You might have a framework like Airflow, Dagster, dbt. Those are data pipelines which also need to be monitored. And the last piece of the puzzle is the data users, right? Do you have the right mix of users? Are they firing the right queries? Do you have insight on what the capacities which users required are available, and do you have an idea of how the data platform is actually being used? And we think putting them all together into one platform is what our mission has been, so that you as an enterprise who is looking at data SLAs and data platforms and data delivery, building data products, can kind of have one view of all of what goes on in your data stack, and that's what we do. So what do we bring to the picture, right? From the slide previously, where things were marked in red, we realized that there are issues across the data pipeline which we'd like to address. And with the same, as a part of our solution stack, we want to make sure that whether it's data quality, whether it's the compute architecture, whether it's the data pipeline, basically instrument end-to-end the supply chain of data, right? From the source, from the data sources, all the way till consumption, the Acceldata platform can look at every point in your data pipeline and make sure that what you're designing for is what you actually get at the end of the engineering process. Yeah, so this is I think a little bit more higher picture of it. The Acceldata Data Observability platform kind of addresses all that we discussed in the last couple of slides. Whether you're on hybrid cloud, on premises, including the Hadoop stack, or if you're on the cloud, which a lot of our customers are, Snowflake, Databricks, Azure, whatever is your flavor of cloud, we integrate with almost all of them. And what we provide is kind of an, end-to-end, what we call a multidimensional view, where we look at the performance of the data, right? The underlying platform itself from an efficiency perspective. So you can make sure that, hey, are you using, the data platform efficiently? You bought 100K of credits from a cloud provider. Is it being spent efficiently? Are you optimizing it to the fullest? We also provide capabilities around data management and data reliability, where what we want to make sure is that the data that you get at the end is the best. And one of our customers kind of put it very well, is that a lot of data in the big enterprise is actually hostile, and you don't want to you don't want to consume hostile data, and that's where the reliability part comes in. And from a data pipeline perspective, making sure that because of the complexity of the stack, customers have an end-to-end view of what's going on, and making sure that the SLAs and the throughput and auditing of the data pipeline is actually done. And a lot of our users are, for different capabilities, are data executives, data engineers, and platform owners as well. Yeah, that's all I had, Daniel, about our company and some of what we do for our customers. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take.
Okay, great. It looks like you guys have been hard at work. And I can see that it must have taken years and years to develop a premier data observability platform. Maybe you can say a few words about the early roots of Acceldata, like how did the company get its start? What's been its trajectory? Can you give us some idea about that?
Yeah, of course. I think we're 4 founders working on solving customer problems, right? That's what we've always done. So the DNA of Acceldata is always being customer first, and that's because in our own minds we might have a very opinionated view of what the ideal world should look like, but when you meet customer use cases, you always find out that there's a lot more complexity that you can actually than you usually imagine. So in the same lines, when we were at Hortonworks, we kind of realized that a lot of customers buy into the data platform idea, right? They buy multi-million dollars worth of software, and they're still doing it, right? Snowflake and Databricks and BigQuery and AWS. There's huge amount of spend which actually goes in. But when it comes to operationalizing, right, some of these initiatives, that's where a lot of projects actually fail. I think data engineering is one field where there's literally like a graveyard of failed projects across companies. And I've read a very interesting statistic that the average CDO, I think tenure in companies is about 18 months. So basically, you bring some CDOs from somewhere, ask them to build an initiative, usually fails because of complexity and reasons that I mentioned, and then you start afresh. So we were seeing this pattern a lot, right? We were seeing that companies which have bought into the idea of a data platform have like a tough time operationalizing it, and they would run queries, fail randomly. Nobody knows what's going on. There is some monitoring put in, but it's absolutely utterly useless. And so, kind of listening to this pattern again and again, what we thought is that the enterprise needs a different way of thinking how data products need to be built. And we started out thinking about how we could do this for primarily for on-prem sort of solution, because that's what Hortonworks used to do. And over the last few years, we have also realized, we've seen how a lot of companies are also now moving to the cloud. So we have also built our offerings to make sure that customers can consume it native to the cloud, and make sure that we are also available on the platforms that they're using. But we have grown through our customers, and I remember that the first customer deployment that we had was actually at GE, right? GE Finance, and the finance data lake at GE was one of the most complex systems of its kind, I think, ever. And we were surprised at the level of ingesting close to 200 data sources, hundreds of millions of records being reconciled every day, and again, problems around SLAs, problems around failures, and absolutely no visibility going in. So we have tried, our trajectory has been that work with customers, understand patterns in and issues in the way data is being, data products operate or data pipelines operate, and then take a very platform-centric approach to building capabilities. So if you come in to Acceldata, the way we deliver our software is that our platform has a very broad range of capabilities, right? So right from connecting to something like an S3 file system, all the way to figuring out lineage between different data flows. I think we have taken an approach where we have said, okay, let's talk to as many customers as we can, figure out their problems and use cases, and then generalize them into sort of a platform use case. So that's how we've been building.
Okay, great history and great perspectives. Thank you for that. Yes, the last question for you, Ashwin, is if someone is interested in what they're hearing today, how can they kick the tires on this and see if it works for them?
Yeah, I think anybody who's interested to understand, what data observability is, or how it can work for them, or how the Acceldata solution is working for existing customers and for possibly for prospective customers. There are various channels. I think we put out a lot of use cases and customer experiences on our website, which is acceldata.io. We also have a trial experience in which you can use our cloud products. It takes not more than 10 to 15 minutes to sign up. The link to that is also available on the website, or you can reach out to the Acceldata team at our using from a sales or from any channel that we make available. There's a lot of documentation also available off the platform at docs.acceldata.io, which is our official documentation site. And there is a bunch of micro lessons and videos on how you can use the platform and how customers are actually using the platform. I think we are also covered in a lot of analyst reports, which you might see floating around, in the CDO, data engineering circles. But the easiest way to experience the platform in about flat 15 minutes is to reach out to us through our website, and we'll make sure that we onboard you on the cloud platform where you can actually try and take it for a spin. And then if you like what you see, then we can make it work at any scale that our customers are at. Right. So we're already saying one of our customers process about 800 billion rows for data reliability in less than 6 hours. And that's like for them, it's a 20x improvement with from their existing provider. So very interested in seeing more and more people come in and use our cloud platform.
Wow, great. Pretty impressive stuff. Okay, well, Ashwin, it's been great to talk to you, and I'd like to thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Okay, folks, that's it for the Power to the Data report. Stay tuned for more news and analysis from the big data ecosystem.